Welcome to this special edition of New York Now. I'm Dan Clark. This week, we're taking a break from the news of the week to highlight a few things we think you'll care about. Up first, a big choice in November, but it's not about politics. When you head to the polls this year, there's going to be an extra question on the ballot, and it's really important. Voters will decide if New York will borrow $4.2 billion to combat climate change and address damage done to the environment. And there's a lot of different ways that would happen. The money would be used to upgrade the state's infrastructure, protect our drinking water, fund new renewable energy projects, and a whole lot more. It's called the Clean Water, Clean Air, and Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act. We wanted to give voters as much information as possible about this. So we sat down with two people who've been working on this issue for years now. That's Liz Moran from Earth Justice and Kate Carrera from Environmental Advocates New York. Liz and Kate, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. So we are talking about the Bond Act. It's going to be on the ballot in November. It's a specific question about how is the state going to spend $4.2 billion in terms of combating climate change and environmental measures there. Kate, I want to go to you first. So can you lay out broadly, what would the $4.2 billion be spent on? Because if I'm a voter looking at the ballot and I see $4.2 billion, I'm going to want to know where it's going.
Absolutely. Great question. So yeah, $4.2 billion for climate mitigation, flood risk prevention, restoration, open space, water quality improvements, a really large 4 buckets, big buckets of project spending. Another thing to note is the $4.2 billion, 35% of that should be spent, will be spent in disadvantaged communities.
What do you mean by open space? I think that gets lost.
Yeah, so this was a habitat preservation, money for our parks and recreation. During the COVID pandemic, we saw flocks and flocks of New Yorkers going to use our parks. So different upgrades for those acquiring land for preserving open space that will help with climate change and other areas.
So let's dive into the buckets as we see them. Liz, I want to ask you about the climate mitigation bucket, which is the biggest bucket, I think, as part of this. So what are the measures that we're looking to spend the money on there? Is it just about renewable energy? Is it climate mitigation? Is it climate adaptation? Is it all of the above?
So the Bond Act is certainly all above, and that's what's quite important about it, is that it does attack the climate crisis from a number of different angles. But we're particularly excited about some of the mitigation pieces that this would be funding. For example, some of this funding would go towards electric school buses. Right now, kids are sent to school mostly in diesel buses, and diesel is known to be quite toxic. And that's a health risk to the kids on the bus driver, parents, disadvantaged communities, and, the general public. We need to get diesel vehicles off the road, broadly speaking. So this would fund electric school buses, which is very exciting. We should be transitioning our fleets to electric vehicles as we transition off of fossil fuels. And what's also exciting about electric school buses is the batteries are quite large and they can serve as backup batteries for the grid. So they can actually help power homes as well. Yeah, I thought that was sort of an interesting fact.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that piece. It would also help towards electrifying buildings. The building sector makes up one of the largest sectors of greenhouse gas emissions in New York State. And so some of this funding would go towards electrifying our schools, electrifying public buildings. So these are some really great starting points.
Now, in terms of electric school buses, can any of this money be used, or I guess maybe we don't know yet, but will any of it be used to help consumers transition away from gas-powered vehicles to electric vehicles? Do we know that yet?
This is primarily geared towards public spending.
Okay.
Hopefully the state will be looking towards other means of incentivizing consumers to transition off of their fossil fuel vehicles and towards electric. There's been a lot of talk of funding for electric charging stations, but this is primarily geared towards public spending.
So let's dive into another bucket, water quality, which is so important. I mean, we see just here in the Capital Region, Hoosick Falls had PFAS chemicals in their water, just awful for years and years and years. We see this in different places across the state. So, Kate, what are we talking in terms of water quality, that bucket? What goes into that in terms of spending?
Yeah, absolutely. So water infrastructure improvements, so huge, upgrading our sewer lines, our wastewater treatment plants, a number of different crumbling infrastructure, lead service line replacement. That's really a big concern in the state at the moment, and something that our organizations have spent a lot of time drawing attention to. So these water quality improvements are really critical for providing clean water and access to New Yorkers, as well as dealing with these emerging contaminants. So now that the state has required maximum contaminant levels for a number of different contaminants, such as PFAS, we're now going to start testing for these, and these contaminants are going to be showing up more and more in different community water systems, and we need the funds to start addressing cleaning those toxics up.
Right, so just to clarify, it wouldn't just be money just to detect these, it would be money to fix these problems as well.
Right, installing the treatment systems that are needed to take those kind of contaminants out of drinking water.
So also on water, you have the flood mitigation bucket. I think that was one of the buckets. We see this problem in areas across the state, but we especially saw it in last September when Hurricane Ida just absolutely wrecked parts of Brooklyn and Queens. So would that be the kind of money that we're looking for in terms of building up infrastructure to prevent that flooding, or are there other ways to address it?
I'll start, but Liz, you could probably jump in here. There will be a number of different mechanisms, I suppose, to address flood in terms of adaptation infrastructure that can help provide barriers, and part of that is the wastewater too, ensuring we have systems that can take the flow of water away.
Right.
There's also a lot of natural barrier and a lot of natural systems that can help address flood, so wetland restoration, open space, protecting streams, and other kind of natural water bodies.
Yeah, I think what's important about the Bond Act is it would fund so many natural restoration pieces that would help mitigate flooding. Wetlands are essential for preventing flooding, plus a number of other fabulous benefits to funding wetlands protections. And I will note that New York City was devastated by flooding, and it wasn't that long ago. People still are reeling from the impacts of Irene upstate.
And that was almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
And just to have the effects still happening, it's major for some people.
The costs are tremendous as
Yeah.
well. I mean, people don't often think about the climate crisis being right here and right now, but it really is. And we've seen it through these superstorm events. Scientists have been saying for decades that we're going to see more frequent and more severe storms. And yeah, we've been seeing that here in New York, and that's come with such a major price tag. So in the scheme of things, this $4.2 billion is a drop in the bucket when it comes to the amount of money that'll leverage for the state. And also, just a start for how much we'll need to do. It'll lead to tremendous benefits and ultimately help public health and prevent, ideally, future crises that cost us money.
Now, when I'm a voter and I'm looking at the ballot and I see that this is being spent on all of these things, another concern that might come to me is the management of this money. So, Liz, just sticking with you for a second, beyond the allocations that we have in each of these buckets, who decides how this money is being spent, like allocated on the ground level?
So there will be different state agencies that'll be tasked with the spending of this money. Much of the money was delineated in the budget process. So the way the Bond Act has been proposed, a number of lines have already been carved out.
Just to add on to some of the benefits that Liz was mentioning,
Sure.
we can't not mention that about 100,000 jobs will be supported through this money. So it's not only environmental benefits, there are a number of good green-paying jobs that will also flow.
And what kind of jobs are those? Are we just talking about manufacturing jobs? Are we talking about, I guess you tell me.
Well, there'll be infrastructure improvements. So every time we invest in some wastewater treatment improvements, different adaptation improvements, green energy, renewable energy jobs, transitioning states. So there really are countless.
This Bond Act isn't a new thing. We had a $3 billion Bond Act that was supposed to be on the ballot in 2020, I believe, and that was pulled because the state's economic situation wasn't doing so great. This year, we're doing very well. So, Kate, what are the consequences if this doesn't pass? Can we do a redo? Can we try again? Or can we, I guess my question is, we have all of these ambitious climate goals here in New York. Can we meet them without the Bond Act passing?
Here, we're at a time here and now that we need this measure to move forward, and I think we have the political support and the public support, which actually at this point is more important. And we know we have public support. The public is very much supportive of clean water and clean air. These things poll very high. We passed an environmental rights amendment last year with overwhelming support. So we know the public wants these things. We know that the public cares about their communities, about the health of their families. And you mentioned we have a very ambitious climate law in the state, and we're working very rigorously towards those goals. And this will be, it's a very important step to help achieve that.
Now, Liz, if I'm somebody that's looking at energy in the state, there is a part of the state where people would really like to see natural gas extraction. It's something that we've talked about in New York before. Is this money part of that at all? In terms of alternative energy, some people like to point to natural gas and nuclear as an alternative to gasoline and diesel, as something that may be cleaner and, some ways yes, some ways no. Is the Bond Act part of that at all?
So the Bond Act, like Kate was saying, is going to be a great mechanism to create jobs within New York State. There are so many green energy and environmental jobs that are to be had, and many of them are union jobs and high-paying jobs. So it's really important that we get people off of fossil fuels and towards this new green economy. Water infrastructure is a great example. There's not an area of the state where we don't have tremendous water infrastructure needs. And we know that when we invest in water infrastructure, it creates hundreds of jobs. So yeah, the Bond Act will be very helpful in that and starting us on this path towards a greener economy and greener jobs.
And no nuclear as part of this, right? I know that that's been a conversation with some people saying that that's a more friendly than natural gas, but obviously not so safe in some situations.
No, this doesn't touch upon nuclear.
Okay. And my last question for both of you is, we have $4.2 billion. The governor had proposed 4, and some lawmakers wanted 5, maybe 6. I'll go to you first, Kate. Is $4.2 billion enough?
I think it is great. It is a great start. Of course, we are advocating for the biggest bond act that would be authorized. I think we're very happy with 4.2, and we've moved up $1 billion. Governor Hochul increased that, and as you mentioned, the state legislature had different varying amounts. But I think it is a great number to work with. We really look forward to educating voters this fall or this summer for November 8th, which will be the election day, for people to turn over their ballot and look for the referendum. We don't know what number it will be on the back of the ballot yet, but to vote yes for this measure, it would be tremendous for our state.
And Liz, same question to you, and just a follow-up question on that. Do we know how it's going to be phrased on the ballot? Is that in the statute?
Yes. So,
and you don't have to repeat it because I didn't expect you to memorize it. But I was just wondering if it's going to be up to somebody to frame the question, and whether the question is going to be framed in a way that might be appealing to voters or not appealing to voters. I'm assuming it's designed to be appealing to voters.
Yeah, it actually is in the statute, and I believe it does frame the question in relation to climate change impacts, and it's pretty specific in what it is intending to cover.
But regarding the funding, I completely agree with Kate. We wanted to see as big a bond act as possible, but $4.2 billion, fantastic start. Makes total sense to support this. It has so many things the public likes. But I'll just have to note, the legislature and the governor can't stop here. We do have a climate crisis we're going to have to fight, and it's very important that this Bond Act is just the start, and that the state prioritizes funding to address the climate crisis and protecting public health and the environment.
All right, a lot of great information. We'll see what happens on November 8th is Election Day.
Absolutely.
Liz Moran from Earth Justice, Kate Carrera from Environmental Advocates New York. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.